Now listen, Homer, you can have me anytime you want me. But if you say one word to your wife, I'll tell her you attacked me.
Homer Simpson, the guy who can't even whistle a tune without going off key, becoming an opera superstar. Yep, my friends, nothing in this life is predictable. He ends up attracting a fan more dangerous than public Wi-Fi, someone named Julia, who has more sinister plans than a Mexican soap opera villain. And of course, this story quickly turns from just another day in Springfield to suddenly an international conspiracy, with murders and threats popping up during a performance at the city's opera house. Because obviously, who doesn't love a good opera with a side of life-threatening danger? It all starts with the Simpson family leaving church. And as always, Homer, the master of, I need to leave this place ASAP because God helped me come up with the most believable excuse, nearly runs everyone over. Lisa, of course, trips and ends up in the middle of the street, leading Homer, in a moment of deep altruism and wisdom, to consider leaving his daughter behind. But hold on, he quickly realizes that if he doesn't pick her up, he might have to sit through a sermon longer than the actual gospel. So everyone piles into the car, and Homer, as usual, starts complaining. After all, who needs a church service when you can host a full-on complaint service right inside your car, right? On the way, Homer, with his special talent for changing the subject at the worst possible moment, drops the classic bomb. So, where are we going for lunch? Lisa, ever the voice of reason, starts suggesting options like healthy lunch and I don't want to die of cholesterol. But like an episode of Homer's ultimate frustration machine, every single place has a line as long as a football match. The guy can't even decide between pizza and a hot dog, and he's already ready to give up on life. And just when things couldn't get worse, he drops this. What if we just eat at home, Marge? You can whip something up, right? Boom, Marge, that saint of infinite patience, starts feeling the flames of rage rise like a pressure cooker about to explode. Then Bart spots a place offering a buffet for hungry teachers, and there's no line at all. But Lisa quickly realizes it's not a restaurant, it's someone's house. Homer, still hoping to go home, says his wife is too classy to barge into a stranger's house. Yet, less than a second later, that's exactly what Marge does, making it clear once again that she's not cooking for anyone. In the end, the whole family sneaks into the house, pretending they were invited. They start eating from the buffet, until Lisa points out the crowd gathered around a table. Homer isn't too interested, until Bart suggests it might be for a sundae. Homer gets excited, even joking that maybe this sundae comes with a new tail. When they finally reach the table, they realize it's not a dessert, it's a dead body. Marge immediately notices they've crashed a funeral and tells everyone to put on their best Lisa face. She whispers that they need to get out now. Everyone quietly sneaks away, except Bart, who lingers by the coffin and strikes up a conversation with the deceased's son. Bart compliments the coffin, and after the boy introduces himself as Don and says he misses his dad, Bart takes advantage of the moment and says, "Your dad told me you should give me $10 a week." The kid falls for it, but Homer shows up just in time to stop Bart from pulling it off again. Meanwhile, Homer takes the opportunity to sneak a few more snacks from the table when an elderly lady approaches and asks him for a favor, to help carry the casket. Homer agrees. When we see him carrying it, he confesses he thought the invite was just for some beans. While chatting with the man in front of him, Homer steps wrong and falls straight into the grave. He starts complaining that his back hurts, and Bart, being Bart, throws dirt on him and pretends to bury him. Cut to the hospital. Homer's now getting his medical results. One of the causes of concern? He swallowed way too much dirt. The doctor begins prepping Homer for some tests. As he straightens Homer's body, he suddenly notices that with his organs now slightly shifted, Homer has the perfect singing voice. The doctor suggests that if Homer stays in that exact position and sings, he could save a lot on painkillers. Homer agrees and starts strolling through the hospital halls, singing. Miraculously, every patient he passes begins to feel better. Then, in the exam room, the doctor grabs the bed remote and starts playing around, raising and lowering Homer's bed repeatedly, making Homer's voice change pitch every time. Meanwhile, in the surgery room, Homer sings while the doctor performs an operation, both fully in sync. Mr. Burns shows up saying that nothing makes him happier than shopping. And where is he? At the morgue, casually picking which organs and parts he wants from each patient. But then, as he's talking to Waylon, they both hear Homer's voice echoing through the hall. It's so beautiful, Burns' heart literally skips a beat. Realizing where the voice is coming from, they rush toward it. Reaching the hallway, Mr. Burns claps as Homer finishes his song and immediately begins talking to him about the opera house, which Burns himself founded. He says he'll be directing La Boheme, and he wants Homer to sing the lead role. Homer explains he can only sing while lying down, and Burns replies, "We'll make it work." On the night of the performance at the Opera House, backstage, Homer causes confusion, thinking it's a movie set. After they explain it's actually an opera, the man becomes furious and starts choking Homer, only to immediately switch moods and kiss him, wishing him good luck. Then the opera begins, with Homer singing his opening line explaining why he'll be performing lying down, claiming he hurt his foot. The show goes on, with Lenny and Carl showing up to support Homer, even though they're clearly upset about their awful seats. Throughout the performance, Homer acts standing up, but always finds a way to lie down whenever he needs to sing because of his voice. By the end of the show, the audience gives him a standing ovation, and he receives flowers from Mr. Burns in front of everyone, being called the star of the opera. But Homer doesn't seem very thrilled. Backstage, Homer is in the dressing room with Mr. Burns when Bart, Lisa, and Marge arrive. The kids are excited about Homer's performance and shower him with praise. Homer continues doing new performances, and after one of them, a man comes to compliment him. This same man begins venting about something that always bothered him in operas, the fact that everyone sings instead of talks. He highlights how Homer managed to express real emotion through his voice and keeps praising him. Homer thanks him and begins to leave, but before he goes, the man asks for help with a note he's been practicing. Homer gives a few tips and walks away, leaving the man rehearsing alone. Later, Homer and Marge are at a fancy restaurant celebrating their wedding anniversary. However, Marge complains that Homer brought his friends along. He tries to justify it, but Marge points out it's their special night and they should be alone. Lenny and Carl leave the table, which makes Marge smile. But just as they're about to enjoy the moment, two women approach asking for Homer's autograph. After signing, Marge tells him to stop flirting with the women, and Homer agrees. Then the waiter shows up, and a flirty exchange between him and Homer sparks, which sends Marge into a fury. She storms out of the restaurant, and Homer runs after her. Marge walks off angrily, ranting about how Homer's out of control, staying up all night, overeating. But as she calms down, she confesses she misses just the two of them being together. At that moment, a limousine pulls up. The window rolls down, and inside are Carl and Lenny. They offer to take Marge shopping if Homer needs some space, but Homer politely declines, saying they'll walk home. Inside the limo, Carl and Lenny are with the two women who earlier asked for autographs, who now believe Carl and Lenny are Homer. They all chat excitedly about spending time together. As the limo drives away, Homer turns to Marge and says that whenever he sings, he's really thinking about her beautiful face. And that means all those fans are actually fans of both of them. Marge smiles, starts to reply, when suddenly they hear the noise of a crowd approaching. Looking back, they see a stampede of women running straight toward them. Homer and Marge flee into an alley and hide behind a mattress. The group of ladies arrives, looking around. One of them pulls out a high-tech binocular device that detects Homer and Marge behind the mattress, and the chase resumes, cornering them. Just then, a motorcycle appears on the other side of a gate and jumps over it to rescue them. The rider tells them to hop on. They arrive safely at the Simpsons house, and Marge thanks the rider, even inviting them in for coffee. But to Homer's surprise, the rider is a woman, which leaves him a little irritated that a woman was the one driving. Inside, Marge serves her coffee, and the woman laments how obsessive fans are ruining their image. Marge agrees and calls her Julia. Julia begins expressing disapproval over how other women have been treating her husband and suggests she become president of their fan club so she can control Homer's crazy fans. Marge loves the idea and even decides to bake a pie to celebrate. In the living room, only Homer and Julia are left. Homer starts chatting with her about the show earlier and how he had to improvise a part. But Julia stands up in silence, walks over to him, unzips her jumpsuit, and calmly says that he can see her whenever he wants. But if he ever tells Marge anything, she'll tell everyone he attacked her. The next day, Julia is walking around the living room while talking on the phone, managing Homer's schedule. Marge and Homer watch her work, Homer looking nervous, while Marge says this is the first time she's felt at peace since Homer started performing in the opera. Homer just mumbles his opinion that things aren't going so well with Julia. In the next scene, we see Homer working at the nuclear reactor when suddenly Julia shows up, wearing only lingerie, making Homer bolt out of there. Later, while walking the dog, he starts imagining Julia. That night, as he's getting ready for bed with Marge, Homer sees Julia again and decides to confront her. He gives her an ultimatum, saying he only wants his wife and that everything will end once he stops singing. Julia stands up and surrenders, saying it's better to give up. Homer will never be hers. Homer emphasizes that she'll never have the only man she could ever love and tells her to leave. As she reaches the door, Homer calls her back and asks if she could find a replacement. but not one as crazy as her. The next morning, Homer is preparing breakfast when a snake pops out of a cereal box. Furious, Homer slams the snake against the fridge, yelling that he hopes it dies. Lisa starts to suspect someone might be trying to kill him. Homer thinks about who it could be, maybe a disgruntled employee, but the only certainty is that the snake was clearly someone's symbol. At the Springfield Opera House, Homer is rehearsing for his show and even mocks Flanders, who shows up to defend himself. Outside, Marge, worried, talks to Chief Wiggum, suggesting that they cancel the performance. But Wiggum disagrees, saying his duty is first and foremost to the audience, and reassures her that the Opera House is totally secure. He starts listing the security measures and mentions his backup plan, dropping the chandelier before anyone gets hurt. Then comes the big night. While Homer is on stage, Marge watches tensely, unable to enjoy the performance. Lisa, looking through binoculars, says she hasn't seen anything suspicious, just a clown unwrapping a candy in the crowd. But Bart starts getting suspicious of the conductor, who seems to be carrying darts in his pocket. When Marge looks, she immediately alerts Chief Wiggum, yelling that the conductor is the assassin. At that moment, the conductor is revealed to be Julia, and total chaos breaks out, with Wiggum accidentally becoming a human instrument. Julia prepares to shoot Homer, but Marge, quicker, leaps onto one of the musicians and grabs his trumpet. She manages to redirect the dart, which was aimed at Homer, into the trumpet and back at Julia, hitting her and knocking her off the stage. Snipers begin to fire, escalating the scene into total disaster. As if that wasn't enough, the chandelier falls directly on Julia. Chief Wiggum declares that the show is officially over. Later, the doctor explains that the poison from the dart was forced out of Julia's body by the chandelier's impact, and she'll be fine in a week. As he walks off, Marge approaches Julia and expresses some sympathy, but firmly states that Julia learned a valuable lesson. No one gets between her and Homer. But Julia coldly promises she'll still destroy Marge, even if it's the last thing she does. Then Wiggum and his team show up to load Julia into the ambulance. On the way back home, Homer announces he's retiring from the opera because it got too popular, and now he's ready to do something even more fun. In the final scene of the episode, at the Simpsons' home, Homer is lying down, painting a recreation of Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam on the ceiling of his living room. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss one of the Simpsons' crazy adventures. Leave a like, share with your friends, and hit the bell to stay tuned for our next videos and awesome content. See you next time, folks.